From the news capital of the world, Chicago, Illinois, welcome to the Daily Objective from the Ayn Rand Center, UK. We've got listeners and viewers tuning in literally from all over the world today and this morning, this evening in the UK. And it's somewhat of a somber moment, for obvious reasons. Britain and just the world in general is mourning the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. Also have plenty of time for your super chats and participation. Equal to Reality and I were already chatting about, I thought it was God Save the Queen by The Clash. Turns out it's by the Sex Pistols. So, and we're going to get into that and so much more. But as always, we want to clarify that although we are going to be talking about jolly old England today, this is not formally Objectivism. It's not, it's inspired by Objectivism, but we are students of Objectivism. And today, as I said, talking about Queen Elizabeth II. And, you know, your initial reaction to someone who's interested in Objectivism to anything to do with a monarchy is probably what you think would be discussed. And you've heard me talk about my disgust for a lot of modern day monarchs, Saudi Arabia, etc. Ayn Rand did write, she mentioned a queen, or excuse me, a king a few times, and it was often in Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal, basically contrasting capitalism, system of private property, with as she's writing here, in the pre-capitalist eras, private property existed de facto, but not de jure, i.e. by custom and sufferance, not by right or law. In law and in principle, all property belonged to the head of the tribe, the king, and was held only by his permission, which could be revoked at any time at his pleasure. The king could and did expropriate the estates of recalcitrant noblemen throughout the course of Europe's history. So that's obviously our philosophical understanding of a monarchy, but that's, you know, that you can't really put that in the same basket. It's a package deal, I think, to say, well, you know, Queen of England's a monarchy, Saudi Arabia is a monarchy, just like the old king. This was a modern day queen, despite the fact she was not a young queen. This is a queen in a Western tradition, I'll say that, not like Tamim bin Hamid Al Thani on the left and King Salman on the right of Saudi Arabia. This is not the equivalent category at all. Queen Elizabeth II was a stateswoman and a representative of England. And when you look back and see all the examples of her with every American president, I mean, here's going back to Eisenhower, and you know, a lot sticks out for me for this, but just the poise and the grace with which she presents herself. The style, but the elegance with which she presents herself. And, you know, she's not a legislator. She's not, she has no political authority. And of course, anyone who's actually from England, and I've always prided myself in not being interested in the crown. So I'm kind of, you know, going on what I know. So please correct me in the chat if I misspeak. But, you know, this is a woman who famously cracked up Ronald Reagan by saying, I knew that we had exported many of our traditions to the United States, but I had not realized that weather was one of them. So she was a hostess. She was I think, a very dignified representative of England. Here's her with George Bush Sr., Bill Clinton, George Bush then Jr., and the Obamas most recently. The thing about the Queen too is, as I understand it, she was welcoming of the heads of state, of soldiers, etc., people within Britain, and then also even celebrities. Here's her with the Spice Girls, and you can see she's delighted, and there's something very charming about that tradition from an American's perspective, because she is someone, at least who you get the impression puts an effort into to be a representative. Here's Lady Gaga, even more recently, bowing to the Queen. And, you know, I don't bow to anyone, but I think if given the opportunity, I would probably bow to the Queen, because it's a great honor to bow to the Queen. And I don't think it's a mark of subservience at all. I think it's I would find it to be a pretty harmless tradition. And look, I've come out against the monarchy in the past. I thought William and Meghan I applauded them leaving. But you can only say, I think, positive things about this woman over her life and many of her accomplishments, given the family business that she was born into. You know, I liken her in many ways, in American speak, to Uncle Sam. You know, some of you younger people might not even know who Uncle Sam is or was, but that's that famous recruiting poster, I guess going back to the Second World War. And this was kind of the patriotic soldier and caricature, if you will, of American patriotism, who's going to get you in the army. And I actually thought it was very cool and very impressive that Princess Elizabeth enrolled in the army during World War II and served. You know, you see her there fixing a tire or something like this. This is a woman who was certainly born into luxury and born into monarchy, but from what I read a bit about her service, you know, everyone was instructed to treat her. She went under a pseudonym, and everyone was instructed to treat her as they would any other enrollee. So I have a lot of respect for that. Even more for this story, which I hope gets around a little bit. This is from Vox, but it's reported other places as well. Basically, it tells the time when the Queen was having a lunch with the head of Saudi Arabia, Prince Saud, and King Abdullah. And the Queen asked if she could get a tour of this. The Queen asked if her royal guests would like a tour of the estate. They were all having lunch with the Queen. So this party, including King Abdullah, went to get in the Land Rovers, and the Queen herself, it says, climbed into the driver's seat and drove off. Women not allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia. He was not used to being driven like a woman alone, like a queen. And she wasn't just driving, she was driving. So it's a really fun example of, I think, her sense of humor and her willingness to be very modern day. She didn't acquiesce to, you know, this king from the Middle East because he wasn't, you know, she was gonna kind of put that forward, and I think in a very admirable and positive way. I also respect that she was a cheerleader for her country, not for blind nationalism, I believe, but for positive ideals. She gave famously this Christmas message, and you know, I didn't listen to each one in particular, but I think from what I listened to, these are thoughtful, hopeful, optimistic, sacred. You know, they're kind of secular, and they're full of all the goodwill and empathy and hope that you'd expect from a public leader. And not to mention, many of you who didn't necessarily see her Christmas messages, this the Jubilee thing with Paddington, I guess a year or two ago, was just absolutely beautiful. It was heart-wrenching. She's got a great sense of humor. She played along quite well. I think it's probably not easy to act in front of a fake bear, but it was absolutely charming. And I think she always put herself forward as a very appropriate, I mean, I'll put it this way to our British viewers, I think she made y'all look good. You know, she was elegant, she was appropriate, she was generous, she was empathic. Now, I want to contrast that a little bit to so-called royalty here in the West. You know, here in America, too often we consider professors to be royalty, especially at the best of the best institutions. So I want to contrast Queen Elizabeth's first tweet with a tweet that just posted yesterday criticizing her death, or I guess commenting on her death. Back in 2016, the Queen's first tweet: "I am most grateful for the many digital messages of goodwill I have received and would like to thank you for all your kindness." It's just, you know, very appropriate, very admirable. This is what a professor at Carnegie Mellon University tweeted yesterday. "I heard the chief monarch of a thieving, raping, genocidal empire is finally dying. May her pain be excruciating." I mean, just as ugly, as childish. Oh yeah, she's a professor at Carnegie Mellon. You probably don't even have to guess what she specializes in. Quoting now: critical applied linguistics, critical sociolinguistics, and critical discourse studies examining race, gender, sexual, and social class identities in new language learning through the multilingual journeys of African American students. I mean, is that just like a diarrhea of words there? I don't even know what that is, but that tweet is so cruel, and she's gotten plenty of response to it, including Jeff Bezos, who I think has come out very strongly on a lot of great issues on Twitter lately, much more of a pro-individualistic perspective. And Jeff Bezos rightly calling her out, saying this is someone working to make the world better. I don't think so. Wow. And he's absolutely right. I mean, that kind of discourse is just so devoid of ideas. And this is her response. And I don't want to delve too much into this ugliness given the solemn day today, but she responds, Otoro Jiba Jibuji. May everyone you and your merciless greed have harmed in this world remember you as fondly as I remember my colonizers. I mean, so sure, she's, it's now what's amazing, I'll just say this as a side note, this woman is teaching at one of the best universities in America. She is, I'm sure, makes well into the six figures, and she's esteemed. With this type of absolute disgusting ugliness, and comparing Jeff Bezos, I mean, it's not even worth discussing, but contrast that as a public leader with Her Royal Highness, the Queen. And in case you're wondering, yes, I did Google Otoro Jibe Jubi, which translates into an Igbo insult, wishing someone death. So, these people don't deserve anything. They don't deserve certainly a minute more of this program, because I think they're such an ugly contrast to Queen Elizabeth and her limited role in a non-political context. She was born into the family business. She took it seriously. I think, look, she could have easily, she could have gone a lot of ways. She could have gone off the deep end. She could have addict. She could have been erratic, but she took it seriously. Thank you, Gail, for that super chat. Appreciate it. She did not seize property. She did not stifle speech, to my knowledge. Again, if there's UK viewers who want to correct me, she was a queen, but she was a largely ceremonial queen. She did not infringe on the rights of her citizens. I think she would probably, my guess is she'd probably, well, I don't want to imagine, but she took it seriously, which I appreciate, given the fact she was born into it. And more than anything, she represented the country well. And I think that means a lot these days. Now, look what we got over here in the US. We've got Marjorie Taylor Greene with the Jewish space lasers, and Nancy Pelosi with all of her everything, not to mention her husband's, shady trading. I mean, these people, I'm not proud that they represent the US, but I think Her Royal Highness, from what I understand, everyone mostly did. That's why you're seeing this outpouring of emotion. And more than anything, this queen didn't make laws restricting freedom. So we have a lot of respect for her. And even here, not even here, but here at the Ayn Rand Center UK, we are domiciled primarily in the UK. Gail, thank you. Equal to Reality says Queen Elizabeth was the perfect queen. And thank you for those pounds. And we are saluting all of our viewers and all of our members in the UK today and all around the world. I think we have to have, especially for our members, see our website, Ayn Rand Center UK. But, for someone who I think represented the United Kingdom well, was very, seemingly a great force, born into a difficult situation, but I think a real great force. So we're happy to celebrate her today and thank all of you for joining us. We've got so much more coming up here on the Ayn Rand Center UK. So take this opportunity to ring the bell, subscribe. That way, every time we have a new show come on, you're going to get the alert on your phone. And there's so much here. There's Robert Nasser, there's James Valiant, Don Watkins does shows, Nikos Sapirokopoulos, Raka Ali. I mean, the list goes on, not to mention Harry Binswanger, which is HBTV. So make us part of your daily viewing diet. Thank you for all the super chats. And we are wishing all of our viewers and members in the UK and the royal family as well best premises. Be well.